Welcome everyone to the SuperPhone Standard podcast. I'm your host Rob, and today we are here with a very special guest, a good friend of SuperPhone, Jessica Rhodes from Interview Connections. Now, Jessica and her team, they've played an instrumental role when it comes to helping coaches, authors, creators, brands with podcast guesting. Jessica, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rob. I'm super excited to be here.
Absolutely. So now I know many people have questions, but before we kick off, it would love to just learn just a little bit more about what inspired you to start Interview Connections and how did you really become a pioneer in the podcast guesting industry?
Yeah, I founded Interview Connections in 2013. There were no other podcast booking agencies existing at the time. We were the first to market, and it really started with the desire to work from home. I mean, that's it. I was a new mom. I had started a virtual assistant business. My dad was my first client. So, truly, I just wanted to have an income from home. I wanted to be home with my baby, who's now going to be 11 in next week. So, that was the goal. And my dad, he's a business coach, his name is Jim Palmer, he asked me to book him on podcasts. And so I just started Googling, looking for business and marketing podcasts that would be a good fit for him. And I started emailing the hosts to recommend him as a guest expert. And the response that I got was so positive. These podcast hosts had never been pitched before. They had never heard from a booker. This was brand new because in 2013, there were PR agencies, but PR firms were not booking on podcasts because podcasts were just not at the level that their clients would want to be a guest on. That has changed now. There's a lot more credibility with podcasting. So even PR agencies are reaching out to us wanting help getting their clients on podcasts. But in 2013, it was a wide open space. So I was booking my dad and some other clients on podcasts, getting really positive responses from hosts, and decided to transition from being a virtual assistant into founding Interview Connections and really creating agency services so that I could scale, grow a team, and serve a lot more clients with, set packages versus just billing by the hour. So that's kind of how Interview Connections got started. And it's grown tremendously over the last 10 years because you can't not notice the growth of podcasting every single year. More and more people are listening. There's millions and millions of dollars being put into podcasting through different companies, software services, podcast shows. It's incredible. So it's been really amazing to blaze the trail specifically for entrepreneurs that want to leverage this strategy as a guest.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when we first discovered you, I was even myself just shocked that there is a service like this because I know that there's so many people and so many businesses that need what you're offering. Now, can you just give us a little bit more of a breakdown on how you even discovered us at Superphone and what was it that initially attracted you to starting SMS for your business?
Yeah, so have been using SMS messaging and Superphone for a couple of years. I don't remember exactly how we found Superphone. My guess is the business mastermind group that we were in at the time was talking about SMS marketing. You got to be using texting, and then just a number of companies were recommended and kind of tried a couple out. And we found that Superphone was just the easiest to use. All of the features were the best. Like, we love that we can import our list into Superphone because we're getting contact information through, Facebook ads. We're getting people's phone numbers. We're getting their consent to contact them by phone or by email. But other platforms we found wouldn't allow us to import it. Like, we had to get people to text us first, which was a huge barrier to actually leveraging the software. So Superphone has just been a no-brainer for us. We've been using it for a couple of years, and it's been the single most effective tool that we have used to continuously nurture and engage with our current audience.
Awesome. Well, thank you for those kind of words. Now, for what advice would you give for someone who is a beginning entrepreneur, a beginning business, and they're just having challenges when it comes to managing communications with their contacts or their followers or their fans or clients, really? Would you say it's best to focus strictly on SMS or really using SMS in addition to email as well as other outlets to really just expand more on the relationship building aspect of it?
Yeah, well, I would love to talk about this. I just did a post and an email about kind of this topic from a different angle, but this is a really great question because the reality is when you're growing your business and you're gaining visibility, you are going to have people in your audience on a variety of platforms. I know that at Interview Connections, we have people that follow us on LinkedIn, but are not on our email list or have opted out of our text. I know that we have people that get every single text, but they're not following us on social media and they opted out of email. I could
Yep.
go on. You get the point, right?
Yep.
So you're going to have people in your audience that follow you and consume your content on the platform that they prefer to get information through. So that is why, in my opinion, it's very important to be neutral with all, like, to be using, what do they call it, like omni something, I can't think of the word, but like using multiple platforms to nurture your audience, because if you're only going to use email marketing, you're going to miss out on a lot of people. We have thousands, we have over 20,000 people on our text list in Superphone, and I know a lot of those individuals have previously opted out of email because email's crazy. You go into your inbox and you're just like, I just need to like
Yeah.
not have hundreds of emails. Like I need to get to my client emails. I need to get to my actual, emails with potential clients. And so people just opt out. But that doesn't always mean that they're not interested in your content. But they'll get a quick text and they're like, okay, cool. I'll read, done. Like it's super, super easy to just get a text, read it, engage with it if you're interested. If it's not, stay on the list. So I do think it's really important to maintain your following in multiple places, be posting consistently on social media to engage with the followers that aren't actively opted in to your email or text list but are still following you that way, and to use email to send longer pieces of content, because I like to keep our Superphone text short. I want to provide enough value, but I don't want to send a novel through Superphone and text. So I use all the different platforms in different ways, but I do think it's important to be putting out content on all different platforms because you never know where people are and what type of content, what type of marketing messaging is going to hit them at the right time in the right way.
Yeah, and I would say kudos to you and your team, Jessica, on the text messages that you send. They are concise, straight to the point, actionable. There's no overwhelm. There's no multiple call to action. Just says, hey, here's the message. So, that's one area I would say as well that is great in terms of what you and your team are doing as well, is really knowing how to get the message across through text.
Yeah, Margie and I, when we are co-creating these text messages that we send out, our goal, even though we know that when we text our list, if it's a segment, it might go out to 2,000 people. If we're texting the entire list, it's going out to over 20,000. I want each person who receives the text to feel like I just texted them.
Yeah.
I don't want them to feel like they are one of 20,000 people, because then they'll ignore it so much more. So, one thing that I do, even though the nice little like AI tool is like, this is a weak text because I don't put links. I don't use links in my Superphone text unless we're in a launch and people have already opted in and I'm like, here's the replay page, here's the link to book a call. Like then I'm going to use a link. But when I am using Superphone to register my audience for our next event, I have them respond yes to the text, because I would see that I'm like, I know there's more people who want to register for this launch than is clicking the link. People, I just think, get a little wary with links, and so I'm like, well, what if we respond yes? And thankfully, you showed me how to use the keyword response tool, because I didn't previously know how to use that. So I would I would just say respond yes, but then I was manually going through all the replies, which was
A lot of work.
crazy.
A lot of work.
But then now I can truly appreciate the automation that is the keyword response feature. And it's been a total game changer. We just did a 100% organic launch last week where we registered over 2,600 people, and almost 2,000 of those registrants registered through Superphone.
Awesome. Awesome. No, that sounds great to hear. Now, leading into the next question here, how do you and your team normally go about just measuring your return on spend when it comes to using Superphone? Do you have any internal metrics that you're following yourself to know, okay, such and such people converted from text message, such and such people converted from emails, such from social media, or is everything just kind of combined into
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's a little bit difficult to track the exact return on Superphone spend because we're not sending out links for people to buy. So I can't say, oh, I sent this text and I got this many uh, orders. We're selling a high ticket service. People have to have a consultation call with me or my team before they end up buying, and usually they're going to go through multiple nurture points between first hearing about us to buying. Superphone is going to be one of those touch points, but it's probably not going to be the one and only that gets them to convert to buying. I will say I know that we have converted sales when we've sent out texts to our list to book a call, and I have closed some sales from people that were like, "Oh, got your text. It was the perfect time. Booked a call, bought." So there have been some of those direct conversions from a Superphone text. More often than not, the return on Superphone spend is best looked at through the lens of, okay, these are all the sales we've closed through our launches, and the texts that we sent to these leads to remind them to be at the session, to send them the replay link, to remind them when the session replays are going away. Those texts are critical in moving them through the funnel to the point of actually buying. So Superphone is a really important and helpful tool that we're using in the funnel, but it's not typically the thing that is converting the sale, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, that's great because even that itself just provides a lot of insight for a lot of our listeners here. Is really there's so many different avenues and so many ways you can go about using Superphone. Whether it's just to nurture relationships with contacts, whether it's just to use it as a CRM tool. There's so many functionalities to it. So it's great that you're really using it to complement your business and not strictly SMS solely. So now pivoting just a little bit more, just when it comes to, I know you mentioned keyword responses, but are there any other integrations or automations or anything that you would say has made a significant impact on just streamlining your business?
Yeah, I mean, I think the keyword responses is probably the biggest one. We keep our marketing so simple, and I guess for a newer, coach or course creator who's like kind of building out their funnel, it might look really complicated and robust, but in everything we do, we really look at it, is this effective and is it efficient? And effectiveness is very, very important. That's primary, right? Because if it's not effective, I don't care how efficient it is. Like, it has to be helping us drive results, but we try to keep everything super, super simple. So and maybe we're a little bit too slow, but we're really slow to add in a ton of integrations because I have found that sometimes when I do, it kind of breaks things before it fixes things. And maybe that's just because I'm like not great at tech stuff, which is ironic because I own a podcasting business, but I keep it really simple.
Which is great. I
um,
mean, simplicity is key, honestly. Sometimes it can get too complicated, and that's when you're just finding yourself in circles.
I really think that a lot of people, a lot of online entrepreneurs, they jump to making things so complicated and they get overwhelmed with like, oh my gosh, there's this tool and there's this feature and there's this and there's this. And they get overwhelmed to the point where they're just like, I can't do it all. I can't do any of it. And it's like, just stay simple, like send a text, ask them a question, get a response, go from there. Like,
Yep.
so that's kind of our vibe, is keeping it simple and really keeping that human connection at the center of it. I mean, human connection is at the center of everything we do, from how we operate our business, how we work with clients, how we market, how we sell. It's all with human connection. So while I think that there's automations and integrations that can help make things more efficient, we're very careful to make sure that it doesn't remove the value of human connection that we want to keep at the core.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that because even though there's a lot of automation, there's a lot of implementations that can help any business who uses Superphone or any tools or any softwares. It's that personal touch that makes it impactful. Because we get messages all the time, and even sometimes with text messages of just specials and discount codes and things like that. But it's so disconnected that people approach it the same way they will with email. But when the messaging is very personal and it's got the human element to it. And the fact that you focus on that when it comes to your outreach through text is why you're getting the conversions you're seeing, as well as the responses, even because people feel it's concise, it's straight to the point, it's clear, it's simple, and there isn't too much fluff around that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now, before we wrap, to any of our listeners who are interested in learning more about interview connections, or even about choosing to enroll or becoming a guest on podcasts, where can they find you? Where can they learn more? Go ahead and plug in all that information.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to give out my email so that if you're listening to this, I can personally connect with you because the Superphone community is my favorite. So Jessica at interviewconnections.com. If you heard this podcast interview and you're interested, if you have any additional questions about how I'm using Superphone, or if you have any questions there, you want to book a call, come to our next event, just send me an email because I want to connect personally with anyone who heard this podcast and wants to learn more. So Jessica at interviewconnections.com is my email. And then our website, interviewconnections.com. If you just want to go there and check us out, book a call, learn more.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. Hey, Jessica, it's been great. Thank you again for taking the time to join us.